when the Treaty of Versailles handed Germany's former holdings in Shandong province not back to China but to Japan, outrage swept through the nation. Students in Peking took to the streets, their protests spreading from city to city until it culminated in a massive strike in Shanghai. The movement that emerged, later known as the May 4th movement, was more than a protest. It was a declaration that China would no longer accept humiliation as its fate, and from its energy arose the two great forces that would shape the country's modern history, the nationalists and the communists. In the southern city of Canton, Sun Yat-sen worked tirelessly to build the Kuomintang into a disciplined revolutionary organization. He sought support from the Western powers but found none willing to help. Instead, assistance came from the Soviet Union, whose envoys arrived with advice, resources, and a willingness to train a new generation of Chinese revolutionaries. Their arrival marked the beginning of a new chapter, one in which China's struggle for renewal would intertwine with the ideological battles of the wider world. And so, from the long arc of humiliation and resistance, from the weight of foreign intrusion and the collapse of imperial authority, a new China began to take shape. It was not yet unified, it was not yet strong, but the seeds of transformation had been planted, and the forces that would reshape the nation were already gathering, waiting for their moment to rise. The end of the First World War brought a strange mixture of hope and disappointment to China. The world had spoken of self-determination, of nations rising from the ruins of empire, of a new era in which old injustices might finally be corrected. For many Chinese intellectuals, students, and reformers, this language stirred something long dormant, a belief that perhaps the humiliations of the past century might begin to lift. But when the Treaty of Versailles was finally revealed, the illusion dissolved almost instantly. Instead of restoring German-held territories in Shandong province to China, the treaty handed them to Japan, a nation that had already taken Korea and eyed the mainland with growing ambition. The news spread quickly, carried by newspapers, whispered in tea houses, and debated in university courtyards. It struck a nerve that had been exposed for decades, and the reaction was immediate. In Peking, students gathered in the spring sunlight, their anger sharpened by a sense of betrayal that felt both personal and national. They marched through the streets with banners and petitions, their voices rising in a chorus that echoed through the capital's ancient gates. Their protest was not merely against the treaty, it was against the long chain of humiliations that had preceded it, each link forged by foreign powers and accepted by a government too weak to resist. The movement did not remain confined to Peking. It spread outward like ripples on a still lake, reaching other cities, other schools, other communities that had grown weary of watching their country carved apart. In Shanghai, the unrest culminated in a massive general strike, a moment when workers, merchants, and students stood together in a rare display of unity. The strike brought the city to a halt, and for a brief moment it seemed as though the entire nation was breathing in unison, stirred by a shared sense of purpose. This wave of protest would come to be known as the May 4th movement, though its influence extended far beyond a single day. It marked a turning point in China's modern history, a moment when the younger generation rejected the old order and demanded something new. They called for science, democracy, national strength, and cultural renewal. But beneath all these ideals lay a deeper longing, the desire for a China that could stand on its own, unbowed and unbroken.